Welcome back to Uprising. I'm Sonali Kohatkar. Mothers being held with their children at a detention center in Texas have been on hunger strike this week. It is the second such hunger strike this month. The women, who are primarily undocumented immigrants from Central American countries like El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras, say conditions at the center are unbearable. During the first hunger strike in early April, 78 women signed a handwritten letter which read in part, quote, "We came to this country with our children looking for help and refuge, and we're being treated like criminals, and that is not what we are. We are not a threat to this country." Detainees have complained about the quality of food, the conditions of their imprisonment, and even sexual assault by guards. Some women have been held in solitary confinement. Children as young as 2 are being held with their mothers. The center, designed to hold whole families, has been cast as a humane alternative to prisons. Originally called the Karnes County Civil Detention Center, the prison was recently renamed to the more euphemistic Karnes County Residential Center. Furniture is colorful and kid-friendly. A large painted sign reading "Bienvenidos," welcome, greets people at the door. But the soft facade betrays the fact that it is still a locked facility. Karnes is being run by Geo Group, one of 2 large private corporations that runs prisons and detention centers in the U.S. Joining me today is Jonathan Ryan, Executive Director of RAICES, which stands for the Refugee and Immigrant Center for Education and Legal Services in Texas, and Sameera Hafiz, a legislative and policy consultant with the group We Belong Together. Welcome to Uprising, Jonathan and Sameera.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Jonathan, first, tell us about the first strike. One of the women who organized it is this Honduran woman named Kenya Galeano. She was imprisoned with her toddler. She happens to be out now and free. How did women like Kenya organize? Actually, let me ask, Sameera, let me ask you that question. Tell us about the first strike.
Sure. The first strike involved about 80 women that had been held at Karnes with their children. Most of them had passed their credible fear interviews, so they had made an initial showing that they are eligible for asylum because they face persecution if they'll be returned to their home countries. And so they were objecting to both the conditions of their confinement and also the fact that they have not been released pending their asylum applications, and many of them have been held for months, between 5 and 10 months, and with their small children.
Now, Jonathan, I understand that in retaliation to organizing this strike, that the first strike, some of the women were put into solitary confinement with their children?
Yes, that's correct. Unfortunately, we've seen an array of forms of retaliation taken by ICE to various people as a result of these hunger fasts. Immediately after allowing the letter out of the facility that described the reason for their protest, several women were rounded up as the supposed ringleaders of the fast, and they were brought into isolation rooms, which were dark, in which they were kept with their children. These rooms had a single bed, an open toilet and shower, and a sink beneath which you had to cup your hands just to drink water. The women had no control over when the lights were turned on. They were only turned on during meal times. Other than that, they were just held in dark rooms with their children. One woman in specific, Delmy Cruz, who is still, unfortunately, at Karnes, was kept in the room with her 11-year-old son, Alexis. Now, they have been released from the isolation room, but are still at Karnes. And those people who have visited with them following this isolation report that Alexis' entire demeanor and mental health deteriorated rapidly during that time, and that he really has not recovered. We are hearing that he is in a constant state of crying, depressed, failing to make eye contact. It has been a really brutal experience, not just for the mothers, but of course for these children.